Hello, welcome to this your channel, the Bada Eurofan. That's me. It is undoubtedly one of the heavyweights of the contest year by year, and they were coming from organizing the last edition in the city of Malmö for the third time. Considered today as one of the most controversial editions in the history of the contest with all that happened during the week of the competition. It is not difficult to sense that we are talking about the powerhouse Sweden, which has not lowered the bar even during last year's contest. With the energetic and hectic proposal presented by the twins Marcus and Martinus serving as hosts, having achieved an outstanding 9th place in the final ranking. Now we will see who are the next artists that had the chance of representing the Scandinavian nation in Basel. Let's go! For today's episode, I'm going to review the Swedish entry for Eurovision 2025, which has been represented by the group Kai with the song Bara Bada Bastu, which in English translates as Just Take a Sauna. While you are getting ready with a towel at the sandals to have a hot and steamy session, that if you are in the southern hemisphere, because right now with the summer in the northern hemisphere it will be a suicide. Let's discover more of this peculiar trio that it is inviting us to relax. Without further delay, let's move on with the review. First of all, we start reviewing their biography and career before representing the Nordic country in Switzerland. Kai is a Finnish musical and comedy trio coming from the municipality of Boru, located in western Finland. This municipality has the particularity of being one of the regions in Finland where both Finnish and Swedish are official languages, being the latter one the most predominant. It is formed in this case by vocalist and multi-instrumentalist Kevin Holstrom, vocalist and multi-instrumentalist Ales Ullman, and vocalist Jacob Norgård, whose initials of their names form the trio's name. Prior to creating the group, they were knowing each other between them separately during different events in their childhood and adolescence until they get to study together in the same high school, which would strengthen their friendship. They started a musical project during 2009, although it is not until 2012 where they released their debut studio album. They released their first official single in 2013, which will be part of their second studio album released the following year as well, but it won't be the second single from this album with which they will start to get more notice in Finland among the Swedish-speaking audience, doing performances throughout the region of Ostrobothnia in western Finland. Their third studio album will come out in 2016, which was successful as well, getting consolidated in the Swedish-Finnish musical scene, gaining acknowledgements for their artistic work and participating onwards in many sketches produced in many TV shows of the Finnish Prologue broadcaster. Thereafter, they will explore two different phases with which they will start to get known in neighboring Sweden. In 2018, they produced their first musical named Gammamark, which depicts the story of a guy who rebels to his father and his ultra-conservative ideology, which is the leader of the fictional village of Gammamark that have declared their independence from Finland. All the songs from the musical were composed by the trio, which will be part of their fourth studio album as well. 1 year later, in 2019, they will do another change of face by temporarily calling themselves as Virgins. The main idea was embodied in a group that performed rockabilly music, which parodies ragare subculture, which is found mostly in the Nordic and Central European countries. Under this alter ego, they would release a studio album that can be considered as the fifth for the trio, and they will perform songs composed by them in the genre for a few years. During 2021, they will produce their second musical name, Bomnia Paradise, which makes multiple references to rural life in their native region, also with songs composed by the trio, which will be part of their sixth studio album. And later they will have a break to focus on writing new music to be included in their seventh studio album released in the middle of last year. Musically speaking, the trio explores diversity of musical genres about the different musical works they have released during their career so far, from pop going through rock, rap, disco to slager, usually incorporating humor and while they are running their compositions and performances and singing all the repertoire in the Boru dialect, which is the variety of Finnish Swedish that it is spoken in the region of Ostrobothnia. Beyond their musical and comedic side, each one of the members of the trio have developed other phases in parallel with their artistic project. Kevin, in one hand, has studied sound production and design for film and TV. Axel has studied journalism and worked coffee for a short time. He is also the writer of short stories, children's books, and novels. And Jacob has studied photography and editing for film and TV, being a radio presenter for a short time in the Finnish public radio. Being then quite multifaceted artists with a wide experience on their backs, it is also true that their audience was still too limited to what comes to question why Sweden instead of Finland. In one hand, the trio have received limited attention in their native country, mostly because of their dialect, while in the other hand, they have gained wider attention in Sweden, despite the fact that most of the times their dialect is difficult to understand even for the Swedes. In fact, linked to that previous fact, the trio will be contacted by them by Karin Gunnarsson, which is the artistic director and producer of the mythical Melody Festival, to see a potential participation of the trio, which initially seemed quite difficult taking into account the high power of convocation and the wide interest on the national final into the Swedish musical scene. But after being themselves long-time followers of Melody Festival, the decision on sending an entry for the national final will come in a natural way for them, although without thinking too much on the possibility to probably represent Sweden at Eurovision. To see a little more about the outcome of this story, let's take a look more in detail how they initially get a spot in the renowned national final. Keeping their usual strategy, the Swedish public broadcaster would organize what it went to be the 65th edition of the renowned national final Melody Festival, which will select both the artists and the song that will represent the country in Switzerland. The submission period was open between late August and mid-September of last year, as they usually do, for the Swedish artists and songwriters who wanted to send their proposals. After the deadline, it was known that 2,794 proposals were received, registering a slight increase compared to the last edition, keeping the high numbers they received with each edition. The artists that will participate in the national final will be announced in late November of last year, where the guys of Kai were among the chosen ones, and also standing out from them very well-known names that have represented Sweden at Eurovision in the past. In one hand, there was the singer Jan Lundvik that was participating for the fourth time and that was the Swedish representative in 2019 during the edition held in Tel Aviv, Israel, in addition to having been involved in entries for other countries as a songwriter, specifically for United Kingdom that same year with the song Bigger Than Us, performed by Michael Rice. And for France in 2020 for the song Mon Ali, The Best in Me, that will be performed by Tom Leaf in the edition that will be held in Rotterdam, Netherlands, if it were not cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Then there was the group Ari and Ghana, who were the Swedish representatives in 1993 during the edition held in Mistral, Ireland, that was participating in the national final for the seventh time. And last but not least, there was the singer Mansamelo, winner of the contest 10 years ago during the edition held in Vienna, Austria, that was participating for the fourth time after performing in the national final. Fifth overall if we also appoint his participation as a songwriter. Curiously, while the guys from Kai were underdogs into the competition, the name of Monk was the strongest one, taking into account that he was casually attempting a similar feat like Lorin did 2 years ago. In fact, Monk himself revealed from the very beginning that he had in mind to get not only a second victory for himself, but also the 8th one for Sweden. Which is very ambitious, I have to say, although it is not absurd at all either, knowing beforehand the power that Sweden has in the contest. Talking about the format, it will have slight changes in addition to the ones already implemented during the last edition. In the different heats, the first finalist will be determined by the age group's voting system, while the second finalist will be determined by roll votes unlike past editions. And the third most voted artist in each heat will advance to the final qualification round that will take place at the end of the fifth heat, having then 5 artists instead of them, where there will be another voting round to select the last two finalists that will advance to the final show. And in the other hand, unlike past editions, the competing songs for each heat will be officially released in the streaming platforms the day prior to the show of each heat. The rest of the format will remain quite similar, keeping the traditional tour on different cities throughout Sweden. Kai will make their first appearance in the fourth heat, the same one in which was also Mansamelo, where they will become the second finalists after the second round of voting by the public. Then, during the final show that took place in early last March, after all the performances of the finalists, it was expected a quite intense duel between Kai and Mons, after being almost tied after the voting result for the international jury. Thereafter, the voting results for the public gave the highest score to Kai, which would say will achieve the victory in the national final by surprise against Mons, which was the big favorite and that ended up as the runner-up, gaining subsequently the right to represent Sweden on the main stage of Basel. I tried to sweat all the stress from the routine. Now I'm going to analyze more in detail about this Yumi proposal with which they have attended the contest. The melody is a Nepatan track, which is a blend of electronic dance music and rock very popular in Sweden, characterized by having lyrics with humorous and irreverent topics which casually fit with their musical style. It is quite noticeable the accordion as the main instrument about the instrumental basis of the track, and by listening to it, it is irresistibly catchy, especially by the chorus of the bridge, which makes you enjoy and dance every moment. About the voices, I get them quite right, and combined they sound great, in addition to the catchy character of the song, which encourages you to sing it out loud even if you do not understand anything you're saying if you do not know the dialect. In this sense, Jacob declaims the first verse, Kemi declaims the second verse, while the trio then sing together by the chorus and the bridge. The lyrics have been written in the Boru dialect with some words in Finnish by the trio themselves together with a group of Swedish songwriters and producers, standing out from them to Anders Werthop, who already have had experience composing entries for both Sweden and other countries in the contest. It is to be said that this is very remarkable, not only for being the first time that an entry in a dialect derived from Swedish has represented the country at the contest, but also for the fact that it has been the first time in 27 years that Sweden sends an entry in its native language. Although, however, outside Sweden, the language was heard less time ago in the competition, specifically by Finland, which sang an entry in Swedish in 2012 during the edition held in Baku, Azerbaijan. Talking about the contest behind the lyrics, they have commented that they wanted to write a song that showcased a little of the Finnish culture, which is also extended to other Nordic countries. Also taking inspiration of the extravagant and eccentric aura from recent Finnish entries of the contest, referring in this case to Karja and Windows 95 Men, with the idea to make fun of how Swedes view things, especially regarding aspects of their culture, specifically the well-known Finnish sauna. Reading the lyrics more in detail, previously translated of course, it describes the experience of relaxing on a sauna after the daily routine, describing it as the best refuge to get rid of all the worries and the stress from the extreme heat to the wellness feeling produced by it. As an interesting information, the lyrics also stand out the mention of the Finnish singer Arja Saijonmaa in one of the verses, which started to become quite popular in Sweden, especially with her Swedish adaptation of the song Gracias a la Vida by the Chilean singer and songwriter Violeta Parra, titling in this case Chabil Takalibet. I imagine in this case as a sort of wink of the widely close relationship between Swedes and Finns. If there is a message that could be deducted from the track, I would say that it emphasizes the fact that amid the complications of daily life, it is always needed to have our moments of relax and enjoy the things that gives us happiness and pleasure, both for our physical and mental health, which is even more significant in the times we live. Having reviewed this hot and steamy song, it's time to analyze the live performance in the national final, which serves as the official music video for the proposal. The performance begins with a shot of a campfire in the middle of the stage while the song is heard, seeing Kevin roasting a sausage in that campfire while Axel plays the accordion and Jacob performs the first verse. It can be noticed that the stage resembles a forest with real spruce trees budding the stage and the visual graphics, trying to recreate a classical country environment. As it progresses, a group of people appear, chopping and transporting firewood from a woodshed that it is seen behind the campfire, while the guys from Kai are progressively moving to the platform where the woodshed is. They perform the first chorus from the platform, with the woodcutters joining them later to perform a quite amusing and funny choreography, and shortly after the woodshed becomes a sauna, noticing that the woodcutters, that will be the dancers, disappear for a moment, while the lighting of the stage gets warmer. All of them sit in the sauna with Jacob holding the classic bucket with the ladle, while Kevin performs the second verse, until the dancers reappear again with towels, hats and sauna whisks, doing a later variation of the same choreography of before in the second chorus, with all of them sitting in the benches of the sauna. By the bridge, the lighting slightly changes by using green tones, while the attitude from both the trio and the dancers is more energetic. Shortly after, in the final chorus, the lighting changes to purple and cyan tones, by also featuring small columns representing the steam of the sauna in this case, and laser spotlights, with all of them performing the same choreography from before. With the song's outro, both the guys from Kai and the dancers place in the lower bench of the sauna to perform a very fun dynamic by sitting and getting up alternately until they finish the performance with all of them standing while there are more smoke columns. Having a concept that well-defined, it was predicted that they will keep it without further changes ahead of their participation at Eurovision. Prior to the contest, they had the chance of presenting their proposal live in the different Eurovision parties of the season by doing a more simplified performance compared to the national final, although keeping the already viral choreography in the chorus. For the staging in Basel, it was assumed that they would keep it like in the national final, and it effectively was in fact according to what it could be seen with the first rehearsals, although doing some slight adaptations. By using a slightly reduced version of the sauna prop, an improved version of the campfire, and having just 3 dancers to comply with the rule of 6 people on the stage that would also perform as backing vocals during the chorus and the bridge. Watching the live performance in the first semi-final, it could be seen that it was technically the same like in the national final, where they have used the visual graphics to the most. And during the bridge, they have made use of 5 columns with the frame of the front of the stage serving as a thermometer, in advance to the climax of the performance with the last chorus, and all of them approaching then to the front of the stage to perform the already known funny choreography, finished in the performance from there. I have not any doubt that they will qualify without any issue to the grand final after being one of the big favorites of the edition, and it was indeed. For the moment of the voting results in the grand final, the jury rated them quite highly, placing them initially in the 6th place, so it was about to see if the public would take them higher in the ranking or even giving them the enough points to win the contest. Thereafter, with the voting results from the televote having been fair for the public, they will escalate 2 spots to achieve a more than outstanding 4th place in the final ranking. Making a summary of all the comments, the Swedish entry for this year is absolutely fantastic, and particularly I just love it. I'm saying and I appreciate most of all that they have finally dared with a totally different proposal to what they traditionally used to present in these recent years. And I'm not saying that the past entries are bad or anything, but appealing to the same classic Swedish pop every year, although it usually works out pretty well, it comes to a point in which it becomes monotonous and predictable. Following the trend from last year, this has been the 2nd time that Sweden has been represented fully by foreigners, last year by Norwegians and this year by Finns. Who knows if the next representative will be from other nationality to keep the same trend. Once again, the final result represents another big success for the Nordic country, which keeps its position as Eurovision superpower that has been consolidating especially in these last years, so it will not be strange that they manage soon to overtake Ireland by achieving an 8th victory that places them as the most successful country in the contest. About the trio then, there is no doubt that they will move forward with their musical career. In fact, one day before the grand final, they have released their first compilation album, in which they include, in addition to the greatest hits, the song with which they have participated at the contest. That is already a sales success in Sweden, Finland and Norway, and that is also reaching very high positions in the Baltic and Central European countries, so it is pretty sure that we will keep moving more from them and their fun musical project. This has been the Swedish proposal of this year for the contest. What do you think about it? Was it one of your favorites this year, or it did not get much of your attention instead? In any case, let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure that the discussion will be very interesting. And this is it for today's episode. Before I finish, I invite you to like this video. With this, you can help me by bringing me your support for this content to reach too much more people. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not done it yet, and enable notifications by hitting the bell, and follow me through my social media. Take care and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.